You think you're in control? You are not. Your nervous system is making decisions before your rational mind even kicks in. If you've ever wondered why some people thrive under pressure while others completely shut down, or why you can have all the right strategies and methods, but you find yourself making the same self-sabotaging decisions over and over and over again, today I'm going to give you the answer. I'm going to show you the hidden operating system that is running your entire life. Your nervous system's automatic survival responses were programmed in childhood, and they are now controlling your success more than you realize. And not just success, your entire life, but I mainly focus the examples on performance. By the end of the video, you will understand exactly which survival pattern your brain defaults to and why it's either accelerating or sabotaging your potential. And I prepared a simple quiz for you to be able to identify your dominant pattern and the fastest way to rewire these responses for peak performance instead of survival. Have you ever noticed how two people can go through the exact same stress and react in completely opposite ways? One would get aggressive, will try to control everything. Another one will just try to escape. They can't sit still. And a third one might go blank, get frozen, paralyzed, and will not make any decision. Maybe you've felt this yourself. Those moments where you knew exactly what you should do, what you're supposed to do, but your body had other plans. Your heart started beating, your chest tightened, and your mind went blank. It felt like you weren't yourself anymore. But that's not weakness, it's not lack of discipline. That's your nervous system running the show. The same survival mechanisms that kept you safe as a kid are now sabotaging you as an adult. In my last video, I talked about how levels of consciousness shape success. But today we're gonna go even deeper into the programming that decides which level you even get access to. And look, after 12 years of studying neuroscience and psychology, interviewing and coaching hundreds of high performers from CEOs to traders, I can tell you this with full confidence. The people who actually reach their full potential aren't smartest or the most disciplined ones. They are the ones who know how to regulate their nervous system. Think about the last time you were under real pressure. Maybe it was a huge presentation or a conversation that you were avoiding, or maybe a decision that you knew could change everything for you. Now, I want you to remember how your body felt. Did your jaw tighten? Did your heart start beating faster? Or you felt this uncontrollable urge to take charge, to push harder, to prove yourself? Or maybe your breath got shallow, your chest felt tight, and your mind started racing, and the only thing that you could think about was escaping or distracting yourself. Or maybe it was the opposite. Your energy just dropped, your mind went blank, no clarity, no action, you just froze. Whichever one you felt, you've just spotted your nervous system's default survival code. These aren't personality traits, they are not character weaknesses, they are hardwired neurological responses that were programmed into your system before you were old enough to be able to consciously choose them. And you might have different responses in different situations, but one is default, one is the go-to. And they don't just show up in high pressure moments. They are running silently in the background of your life, in your business decisions, your relationships, your money, even the way you set your goals. I've worked with traders who are technically brilliant, but keep sabotaging their own success. And I was one of them for a long time. Then I worked with CEOs who have all the right strategies but create chaos in their organizations. Entrepreneurs who can see the vision clearly, but they can't seem to execute their plan and make their business run. In almost every single case, the real issue isn't about their skill or knowledge. It's their nervous system that is operating from survival instead of creation mode. Let me explain what's actually happening in your brain when these responses get triggered. Deep in your brain, you have two element-shaped structures that are called amygdala. You have for sure heard about it. And think of them like your body's security system. They're constantly scanning your environment for potential threats. The amygdala doesn't care if the threat is a tiger that is about to attack you, or it's your boss criticizing you in a meeting, or your wife shouting at you. To your nervous system, it's the same. Stress is stress, threat is threat. When the amygdala detects danger, whether it's perceived or real, it triggers what's called the stress response. This happens in milliseconds, before your thinking brain, your rational mind even knows what's going on. That's why your heart starts beating faster, your jaw starts tightening, and your mind goes blank. It happens before you even have a chance to think. Your rational brain isn't in charge in such kind of moments. It's the amygdala. When your amygdala turns on the alarm system, your nervous system has three different options. The first one would be fight response. Your body floods with adrenaline and cortisol, your heart rate increases, your breath becomes rapid, your blood flow to the brain moves away from your prefrontal cortex to the muscles, and you become aggressive, reactive, and controlling. The second one is flight response. Same physiological activation as fight, but directed toward escaping. You feel restless, anxious, and you're unable to sit still. Your mind is just looking for exits and distractions. You become avoidant and busy. And the third response is freeze. Your nervous system presses stop. Your heart rate may slow down, your energy starts dropping, and you feel numb, disconnected, unable to act. The blood flow to the brain decreases, which creates also brain fog. These responses made perfect sense back in the days for our ancestors. Fight when you could overpower the threat, flight when you could outrun the threat, and freeze when running or fighting would make you more visible to the predator. The problem is that your nervous system hasn't updated in 1,000 years. So when you face a deadline, a sales call, or a financial problem, your brain reacts as if you were in physical danger. It throws you into the same ancient survival program, even though the threat is completely different. It's not life-threatening. There is a fourth response that people are talking about, called Fawn. Actually, not people. I read about it in some research articles. And if you ask me, I wouldn't put it in the same package as fight, flight, and freeze. And here is why. Fight, flight, and freeze are automatic, hardwired, and biological. You're born with them. Fawn is different. It's learned. It develops when you grow up in environments where your safety depends on keeping other people happy. Maybe because of unpredictable parents, of emotional neglect, or volatile authority figures like your teachers. So instead of fighting, fleeing, or freezing, your nervous system learns, if I can make everyone else happy, then I'll be safe. That's why I see Fawn as a conditioned survival strategy. It gets grouped with the others because it serves the same purpose, survival, but unlike the others, it requires social learning and reinforcement over time. So I wouldn't put it in the same package. But let me just tell you how it shows up in professional life. You would over-deliver to avoid criticism. You would say yes to everything, even if it kills your priorities. You will start making business decisions based on approval instead of your strategy. You will start avoiding difficult conversations because you don't want to upset anyone. On surface, this often looks like success. You're the reliable one, the good one that everyone likes, but inside it usually leads to burnout, resentment, and a loss of self. And this is actually people pleasing, in other words. And what is important for high performance is that most of them operate from this chronic Fawn response. They look successful because they're constantly achieving, but what's driving it underneath isn't freedom. It's the unconscious need to prove that they're good enough to deserve safety and acceptance. Let me share some examples of how these responses play out in real world. I worked with a CEO who was technically brilliant. On paper, he was the best, but his leadership decisions were shaped by so many insecurities. Instead of building vision, most of his energy went into micromanaging his team. He would need to be he wanted to be involved in every decision, even minor ones, such as whether there should be space between paragraphs in each email that the company is sending. He was reacting emotionally to every pushback or unexpected change. He would create conflicts where collaboration was needed. He would focus on avoiding mistakes rather than creating opportunities. So his nervous system was stuck in fight, treating every business challenge like a threat rather than a problem to solve. Another example that I can give you is a trader that I worked with. Technically, he was brilliant, but every single time he would find a good setup, he would close the trade way too early, and then he would beat himself up whole day for missing the move. That's flight response. His nervous system couldn't tolerate the uncertainty of holding a position, so it just pushed him to escape the discomfort by exiting the trade way too early. Flight can show up in two ways. From biological standpoint, if cortisol is already high from poor sleep, relationship problems, or financial pressure, the body can't handle more. It doesn't have more capacity and it forces you out. And the second one is from programming. If you've spent your entire childhood avoiding discomfort, your system has learned that uncertainty is dangerous. Even with low stress, you will in this case exit early because the behavior has been encoded. And they're never fully separate. Biology reinforces the programming and programming triggers biology. So when the danger is coming, biology gets triggered and cortisol goes up. That's why a lot of coaching falls short. Some coaches only focus on mindset, just reframe your beliefs, and others only on biology, fix your sleep and reduce your stress. The real power is in working with both of them, regulating the system and rewiring the identity patterns. Then freeze response in reality would be getting stuck in analysis paralysis, unable to take any decision or pull the trigger. It's not about intelligence, it's the nervous system that does what it learned in childhood when it felt overwhelmed and shut down. So the CEO with the fight response most likely grew up in chaos where control felt like survival. The trader with the flight response learned early that emotions weren't safe to feel. And people with freeze response perceived their childhood environment as a place where any action felt risky, felt like a threat. Why do I say perceived? Because siblings in the same house can grow up with the same parents, same conditions, same trauma, and still develop completely different survival responses. That's exactly what happened in my family. I grew up in an environment with chaos and a lot of unpredictability. From financial instability to emotional volatility, safety was never guaranteed. But even though my sisters and I lived in the exactly same environment, we came out with different survival strategies. For me, it turned into fight. Not fighting with my family, but fighting through performance. The first thing that was rewarded for me was dance, and dance became my outlet. It was my way to feel seen, validated, and in control when everything else was unpredictable. Later, the same energy shifted into responsibility, becoming the one who solves all the problems, protects everyone, and takes charge of everything. One of my sisters went the opposite way. She went into freeze. She shut down through depression, withdrawing from everyone. And my other sister coped through self-soothing, comfort eating, numbing herself instead of fighting or escaping. So same house, same parents, same instability, but three completely different nervous system responses. And that's the point. Your amygdala doesn't consciously choose fight, flight, or freeze. It reacts to a mix of biology, temperament, birth order, and what felt safest to you at that specific time. None of us chose these patterns consciously. They were just adaptations. Our nervous system simply did what they had to do to survive the environment that we were in. Let me give you the different factors that determine which survival pattern you go with, and you will be able to identify yourself easily. And why is this important? Because this is where you first integrated the limiting beliefs that are now holding you back. And once you see these patterns and where they are coming from, you can start working on reframing them and reprogramming them. Let's look at the main factors that shape which survival response you default to. You answer with different ones in different situations, but there is one that is a go-to. One main factor is your early environment. If you grew up in safe and consistent environment, you have less extreme responses. If it was chaotic and neglectful environment, you have stronger responses. One factor is how your caregivers showed love, whether love was tied to performance or it was unconditional. How your different emotions were treated, whether your anger was punished, whether your emotions were neglected or accepted. Your family role is another factor, whether you were the oldest, second, third child. The different roles in the family that you adopted. Another factor is culture, also how your parents responded in different situations. Whatever worked to stay safe, the brain was just scanning. If fighting sometimes worked, you fight. If hiding worked, you flight. If nothing worked, you freeze. If pleasing worked, you go more into phone and you develop phone responses. Your temperament and your biology are also another important factors. So bold kids would go into fight more. Sensitive kids would go more into freeze and phone. Stress hormones can push you towards fight pattern, for example. Another factor is culture. Harmony-focused cultures is more into phone. Toughness rewarding cultures more into fight. Whatever reduced danger fastest became your default survival strategy. So what worked fastest and easiest? And remember, this is all perception. Two siblings in the same home can walk away with completely different patterns depending on what felt safest to them. And as I said, blended responses. Most people are not just tending to respond with different ones, not just one. You might freeze first, then phone to smooth things over. Flight in relationships, but fight in business. Phone externally while secretly resenting a hidden fight underneath. Blends happen because your nervous system learned different strategies, worked in different contexts. That's why it's important to find your triggers. The way your nervous system responds also depends a lot on how you related to your mom and dad. Moms usually shape how we learn love and emotions, and dads often shape discipline and resilience. Of course, this isn't fixed. What matters the most is whether there was harmony in the family, unconditional love, and learning how to process emotions instead of suppressing them for safety. This is where survival responses get wired in. You can often trace them back to the messages you got growing up. For example, fight conditioning, you might have been hearing, don't let anyone to step on you, stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. And the children learn that strength is aggression and pain is weakness. Flight conditioning, you might have heard your parents saying, go to the room, I don't want to see you right now, or stop bothering me, I have enough problems on my own. And the child learns that I'm too much and disappearing is safe. For freeze conditioning, you might have heard, don't talk back to me, or you have been receiving silent treatment instead of dialogue. And you have learned that expressing yourself is dangerous, so better just shut down and hide. For phone conditioning, you might have been hearing, be a good girl, be a good boy, don't upset your father or mother. Why can't you be like your schoolmate? And the child learns my needs don't matter. Safety comes from pleasing others and being good for others. And it's not always consistent. Some kids got punished if they were fighting, ignored if they flew, shamed if they froze. In that kind of environment, phone often becomes the only safe option left. Let me tell you a story that shows how conditioning plays out without us even realizing it. I heard this from a therapist that was together with me on one training program. She shared a story with one client that she was working with. It was a 17-year-old boy who came to her because he was heartbroken after his girlfriend left him. And he said, I don't know, we were just joking and I told her, get out of here. And then one day she just left and never came back. On the surface, it sounded like a small teenage drama, but the therapist knew that there had been a deeper pattern behind it. She asked him to keep a daily journal for 1 week because on the first session she couldn't identify the problem, and everything looked normal until Sunday. That Sunday, him and his father had planned to have a guy's day, football, beer, just hanging out, and his mom was supposed to go for yoga with her friends, but she stayed at home and she was cleaning. At first, he said, nothing special happened, I just went to my room, played some games, and later mom called me for dinner. But the therapist noticed something shifting in his body language. And she asked him, how did you feel when you saw your mom at home? And he admitted, I actually got a little bit pissed. I'm the only child, and the whole week I'm at school. The only day that I could spend with my dad and have a guy day, she was there again. And the more that he was speaking, the more the frustration was surfaced. So she asked him, what did you do? And he said, I just turned my eyes and I went to my room. And then it clicked for the therapist. His mom has unconsciously taught him, you can dismiss me, disrespect me, ignore me, and I'll still stay. And I'll still call you for dinner. So he repeated the exact same behavior with his girlfriend without being conscious of it. Turning away, withdrawing, ignoring her feelings, and thinking that she just left for no reason. But unlike his mom, she didn't tolerate it. She just left. It wasn't about the breakup. It was about unconscious pattern of relating programmed in childhood. And here is what actually happened. The immediate nervous system response was freeze. So he just shut down, avoided eye contact and withdrew, and a little bit of flight would go into his room. So what did his mom taught him for his long-term conditioning? To develop an avoidance style. His brain learned, I don't have to consider others' feelings or women's feelings. Women won't leave. Until one did and told him that, hey, something is wrong here. And that's the point. Every single one of us carries patterns like this from childhood. If we don't question and reflect, we end up wondering why things keep happening the way they do, but we think that there is no reason, but there is always a reason. If you want to identify which is your default pattern that dominates your life, I'm going to give you a simple quiz, an assessment, and you can do it once you finish the video. I'll leave it in the description down below. Most people have a primary pattern, but can shift between responses, as I said, depending on the situation. The goal isn't to judge your patterns, but to recognize it so that you can work with it consciously. Now, here is where most people get confused. Not every reaction you have under pressure is a bad one. Your nervous system is designed to protect you. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn all have a healthy version. The problem is when those responses get wired in your brain as a default survival pattern because of conditioning. Healthy fight looks like standing up for yourself and setting boundaries. Trauma-based fight looks like constant defensiveness, anger, or needing to win at all costs. Healthy flight looks like removing yourself from toxic situations and creating space. Trauma-based flight looks like running away from discomfort, avoiding intimacy, or self-sabotaging opportunities. Healthy freeze response looks like pausing to think, reflect, and respond with clarity. But trauma-based freeze response looks like shutting down, dissociating, or losing your voice. Healthy fawn response would look like cooperation, empathy, and building connection. But trauma-based response would look like people-pleasing, abandoning yourself, or living for external approval and validation. Now, the good news is that these patterns aren't permanent. Your nervous system can be retrained. And here are some of the most effective approaches. For fight responses, which is over control, you should first train yourself to pause and breathe before reacting. Take 3 deep breaths so that you can activate your prefrontal cortex. And channel your energy. Use the fight energy for focused work rather than controlling others. And practice surrendering. Ask yourself, what if I didn't have to control this outcome? For flight response, which is avoidance, grounding techniques work really well. So feel your feet on the ground, or name 5 things that you can see. Activate your 5 senses. And instead of running, try to sit still for at least and present for at least a minute. And reframe the discomfort. Remind yourself that discomfort is not danger. It's okay to feel uncomfortable sometimes. Then for freeze response, do the opposite. Movement, shake your hands, wake up your body, small actions. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, just take a tiny action that will get you out of the freeze mode. Warmth and comfort are good ones for freeze response, because such as covering yourself with a warm blanket or taking a warm tea. For phone response or people pleasing, awareness is key. Check with yourself, what do I actually want in each situation? And practice saying no to build your tolerance for others' reactions. Remind yourself that your needs matter as well. Something that works in every single situation is 2 short inhales through your nose and 1 long exhale, and splashing some cold water on your face. This is immediately calming down the nervous system. Or heart coherence, placing your hand on your heart, slowing down your breathing, and trying to recall something that you appreciate. This is immediately changing your nervous system state. And all these things are coming with practice. Don't expect to immediately integrate them into your life and whenever you perceive a threat, next time to do it. You have to first spot them, become aware of them, practice, and the more that you repeat, the more that you rewire the brain, and you rewire the bad patterns and you wire new good patterns, which become easier and easier the more that you repeat them. Now, let's connect this back to the frequency work we discussed in the previous video, or the consciousness levels. When you're stuck in survival mode, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, you're operating at lower levels on the Hawkins consciousness map. Fight often corresponds to anger or pride. Flight typically aligns with fear or desire, and freeze usually operates from grief or apathy. Fawn can be different ones, but mainly guilt and shame, which is the worst one. It's the hardest one to get out of. But when your nervous system is regulated, when you feel safe, grounded, and present, you can access the higher levels, such as courage to take appropriate risks and face challenges, acceptance to flow with whatever situation you're faced with, but taking aligned action, then reasoning, making decisions from clarity rather than reactivity, love, leading and creating from genuine care for everyone's well-being, and joy and other high-level emotions. Many people ask me when they see the new content, Anna, are you changing the niche? Aren't you gonna talk about performance and trading? Well, this is connected to performance. People don't see it because of lack of knowledge and understanding, but your nervous system state determines your capacity for strategic thinking. So survival mode narrows your vision, regulation expands it. Then creativity, you can't innovate when your brain is focused on threats. You have to be relaxed. Third thing is relationships. Others can sense your nervous system state and respond accordingly, which is very important in business. Then decision making. Regulated states are going to give you access to your intuition and wisdom. Resilience. When you're regulated, setbacks become learning opportunities rather than threats. I make sure to regularly assess my consciousness level because I know that my reactivity largely depends on it. Trading has become my earliest indicator, well-being indicator. If I start making poor decisions, it's the first reminder to check in with myself and reset my baseline. If you're noticing these patterns in yourself and you want to go deeper into nervous system work and consciousness to identify where these patterns are coming from, there are a few ways how we can keep doing it together. First one is my book club. This month we're reading Adult Children of Emotionally Mature Parents. So many people are going to recognize themselves in this book. It's not about just reading, it's a community of people who are exploring how childhood patterns still run their lives and how to break free, of course, with my assistance. If you want something more personal, I also do one-on-one consulting. That's where we map out your exact patterns and build a nervous system practice that's tailored specifically to you. And then my colors become limitless. That's where you will get the full simple system, super easy to follow, which is not just theory, it's very little theory and much more tools and techniques that walk you step by step from survival mode into creation mode. All the info is in the description down below. But honestly, the most important step that you can do today is just to start noticing. The moment that you see your patterns clearly, you are already beginning to change. Your nervous system patterns were designed to protect you, but today they might be the very thing that is holding you back. The fight response that once kept you safe may now create conflicts in your relationships and your business. The flight response that helped you to escape danger may now push you to run from opportunities. The freeze response that shields you from overwhelm may now paralyze you when you are supposed to act, when it's time to act. The Fawn response that kept you from rejecting may now make you trade your vision for others' approval. None of this is your fault, but it's your responsibility to change it. And here is the beauty. Nervous system regulation isn't just about calming stress, it's about unlocking capacities you didn't even know you had. When your body feels safe, you access your creativity, intuition, and strategy that simply don't exist in survival mode. In the next video, we'll explore why some people stay trapped in survival mode while others raise into higher levels. We'll connect Maslow's hierarchy of needs with everything that we covered about consciousness and nervous system regulation. You can't reach your full potential while your basic safety needs aren't met at the nervous system level. But once you understand how to meet those needs consciously, everything becomes possible. If this video helped you to understand your patterns better, share it with someone who needs this awareness. And remember, you're not broken, you're not weak, you're not stuck. You're just operating from old programming that's ready to be updated. Thank you so much for being here. If you like the video, make sure to leave a like. Let me know in the comments what you think about it, and I'll see you in the next video.